Hi, my name is Hannah Shealy, and today I'm going to be talking about the anti-renter movement. What was the anti-renter movement? The anti-renter movement, which is also known as the Anti-Rent War or the Helderberg War, was a revolt in upstate New York in the Hudson Valley. It consisted of tenant farmers who were against the manor systems, aka patroonship systems, which rented out their land. These manors held essentially all the wealth in the area and nearly all the land, forcing small farmers to rent from them. The Rensselaer family was most prominent, ruling over about 80,000 tenants and having a wealth of $41 million. How did it start? After the death of Stephen Van Rensselaer III, his sons were more aggressive in collecting the tenants' rents and not forgiving debts in a system that was more akin to feudalism. When the heirs attempted to collect, the tenants could not afford what was being asked and revolted. What did we learn in class? Well, our class covered the anti-renter movement briefly in A People's History of the United States by Zinn in Chapter 10. It outlined the anti-renter movement by explaining the Rensselaers' riches and their role in the start of the movement. It told about farmers banding together in different counties, having meetings, signing a petition for an anti-rent bill. There is one instance of mention of cavalry being sent to New York City. We are told the tenants were defeated by the law, and the chapter moves on to Dorr's Rebellion. The following clippings were received from the Ulster County Clerk's Archives Division in New York. This article is titled "To All Anti-Renters in the County of Delaware and Elsewhere." The article highlights the wrongdoings of those rebelling, also practically begging them to listen to no more to anti-rent lectures, stop your anti-rent papers that mislead and delude you, etc. Note the names at the bottom, which include J. Stanley Grimes of Rensselaer. While these records date to a time under the Crown, New York's Ulster County, which is in the Hudson Valley, is seen to have had a history of tenancy and owing rent. Quit rent, which these articles talk about, is a form of paying rent with other forms of goods, in this instance, bushels of wheat. If payment was not made, the land would be sold out from under the farmer. So what was the full story? Tenancy and rent payments existed long before tensions grew enough for war back to the colonies. Stephen Van Rensselaer III actually maintained his reputation for benevolence and was pretty lenient to his tenants. Some tenants expected that on his death he would forgive all past due rent, and those who expected that were sorely disappointed. Lawsuits against tenants filed by Stephen Van Rensselaer IV in 1839 sparked anti-rent action. Cavalry was sent in to deal with anti-renters more than once. There was many groups formed within the anti-rent movement, but one of the groups, called the Indians, was the most prominent. These Indians dressed in disguises to continue their protests while hiding their identities. These outfits can be seen in this slide. 3 deaths occurring 1844 to 1845 swayed public opinion against the Indians. One, an innocent bystander, shot on accident. The second, a tenant hauling logs who had signed a lumber lease. And, lastly and most importantly, a sheriff attempting to sell a tenant's animals to satisfy debt owed to the landlord. This led to Governor Silas Wright to declare Delaware County in the state of insurrection. The issue finally attracted attention from the state legislature, who passed reform years later, but the shooting made people feel guilty, and the event was suppressed by those who participated for many generations. Some, however, moved to the Midwest and continued to spread these ideas, these actions helping form the Republican Party in 1856. This story relates to the topics we've covered involving the poor unable to afford land, the importance of land that has caused much distress over the course of U.S. history. Tenants had to settle for leases due to lack of cash or down payment for other options. So why is this important? The long history of division of wealth that we have seen exist since the start of the colonies has not disappeared. Knowing that conflict between wealthy and poor has existed since long ago is important in figuring out the solution. The anti-renter movement is not widely known even in New York. Even those I contacted at the Hall of Records in Ulster County, who deal with historical documents daily, were not familiar with the anti-renter movement. This sign here is one of many around the state that tells of historical events, a good indicator that the movement was important and should be recognized more today. The conflicts that occurred should be studied and understood so they don't happen again, especially within state governments. During the anti-rent period, there was military action, but nothing done to actually resolve the issue of rent. Many sources that I found did not have the full story. They left out convenient pieces as well. It is important to put the puzzle pieces together to understand the full tale and the bigger picture so it's not misunderstood or taken lightly. In conclusion, the anti-renter movement is an important piece of history for the Hudson Valley region of New York and should be studied to understand the class division and issue of wealth distribution in the early U.S. through to present today.